Hey friends, we are looking at the MANTIS shrimp model by JMBricklayer. This has 1,843 pieces, set number 70013, and it has a full lighting kit with an onboard rechargeable battery pack. And what we'll do in this video is we'll do a 360 and we'll take a closer look at everything that this model includes, and we'll take a look at the details. And since we're looking at the full view of this mantis, the first thing to tell you is what we're seeing here. So we are seeing the mantis shrimp. Here is the eyes, the antenna, the pincers, and the body comes down all the way here to the tail, and the tail is right here. And what's special about this mantis shrimp is that it is half robotic. So this half of it is organic and organically built, and then on this side of it, it is all built up with mechanical gears and pulleys and pipes and whatnot that go all the way up, and all the way up to the eyes, and the antenna are built differently, including the pincers here. They're also built differently. So we'll take a look at that. And as far as what's going on here, it is about to attack this what almost looks like a hermit crab there at the bottom. So we'll take a closer look there too. We'll look at the lighting kit. We'll look at some of the details, because they do have tiny little details in this model too. So starting with the hermit crab, here he is in red. He's got the two little eye stalks, and he's got a red light coming out of the back of his shell, which creates a nice effect there and helps him stand out. You can see that there's all sorts of underwater plants like this one here. And I think the blue umbrella shaped piece there, that's made up to create one of the two jellyfish. There's another identical one. Oh, I'm sorry, there's only one of them. I thought there were two. There's one of them there. And then coming down, you see a little bit of rocks right there. This is where you get two of these little creatures. I'm not sure what those are, but I can imagine them swimming upwards in that direction. And they have lights that are right at the base of each of these, firing down into those transparent tubes, which almost looks like, like a air bubble, or like a jet stream coming out of them from where they're coming from. You see a little bit of this like greenery down here, some fish. They use these transparent pieces there to hold them up. So a lot of fish, more plants, a lot of plant details in the middle there. And then another group of fish here. They use these carrots there for them to swim through. And then more green pieces and green bananas to kind of give you that underwater vegetation look. There are seashells in several places along the bottom here, and there is a lobster hanging out inside of a cave. And that brings me to the point of scale. There's really no consistent scale here. Everything is a little bit its own thing. The only way I could see this making sense is if the mantis shrimp and the hermit crab were giant scale, maybe, or maybe everything else is super tiny. I don't know. But we'll come back to my thoughts on the overall model in a moment. Coming around here to see some of the things on this side. There's this rock work. I think this might be like part of a coral branching plant there, or some sort of coral structure. Another fish, and they're kind of in a zigzag pattern there. And then I'm not sure the name of this particular underwater plant. It's gives me sort of the heebie-jeebies. It's like a little bit creepy the way that it is, but the way they built it, it actually forms like a spiral. You can almost imagine it creating a spiral on itself because of the water and the motion underwater. So that's pretty clever. And then once we're down here, we can also see another view of this jellyfish. There's a light right at the top that is sending light through all of the different pieces down, and it's really nice. And since we're down here, let's look at the battery box. This is a battery box that is, as far as I know, these are exclusive to JMBricklayer. That's the only company that I've seen these come from. And the way that this light box works is all the wires come into it, so it works as a hub, but it also has a rechargeable battery inside. So right here on the side, there's a USB-C port. You plug in something there, and it will charge the battery that's on board and inside. So you don't have to have a bigger battery pack, and you don't have to keep this plugged into the wall either, nor are there batteries that you need to replace. So that's kind of handy. And this has a 3-mode switch, so it can go completely off. It can go to a mid mode, which is an ambient mode where only certain lights come on when it senses that the room is dark enough, and then it has the full on mode. So let's take a look at those 3 modes right now, since we've got the battery box in view. So let me see if we can zoom out any further. Maybe we'll back up here. And let's turn off one of the lights in here so we can get a better look at the lights. So here's everything completely off. And then here's the middle mode where it's just looking for ambient light. Let's see if I can do that a little bit ginger. Oh, I went too far. There's the mid mode. So the mid mode, what we're seeing is there are the 2 eyes up at the top. The hermit crab shell is lit, and then the very back of the creature is lit. There is a, where did it go? Oh, it's pulsing too. So on the back of him right here, you'll see the light pulse. There we go. So there it is. And all of it is just pulsing sort of randomly. And I think what's happening, the reason it's doing it is it's picking up whether or not there's light coming to the light sensor on the box. That's why it was going off. And then the other 2 lights are these green ones on this sort of back, or the back of its head, or back of its shell. And so, yeah, because it's an ambient sensor, once I was turning it, that's why it was shutting off. Let's turn it all the way back on. There we go. So those are the lights all the way back on. Lots to look at there. And then let's look at the mantis shrimp. So starting with the front of the mantis shrimp, let's turn on a little bit more lights again. What I read about these is that they're actually meat eaters, and they have these 2 almost like punching pincer arms. And what they normally do is they strike their prey. Think of it as a really fast punch through the water at their prey. And that punch is usually fast enough to knock them out. And it's so fast that it actually creates an air pocket, and that air pocket creates its own shockwave. So the shockwave also hits its prey. So what they say is that the prey gets hit twice, once by the actual shrimp, and then the second time by the shockwave. And the shockwave is strong enough usually to injure or knock out its prey alone. So it's a pretty fearsome combination there. And for mantis shrimp, they can live up to 20 years is what I've read, and they can grow up to 20 inches. So this is potentially a life-size mantis shrimp. It's a big one, you know. So we're talking about something that's the size of a lobster, really. Up at the front here, you'll also see that there's the difference between the organic side. And if we zoom in, you can see they used axes for this side. And then on the other side is this sort of almost like a chrome orange or metallic orange that they've used for this other pincer. And then they use a lot of metallic green and other metallic colors for this side, the mechanical side, we'll call it. And so you can see there's quite a few, almost like greebling, and these, like, there's just plenty of gears. You can see they've used ski poles there that are translucent. So a lot of interesting, almost like sci-fi, post-apocalyptic, Blade Runner-y type of colors there. And even this, if you can kind of catch it, there is this tubing there. That's also a metallic color that I've never seen before. It's sort of a bluish metallic. And then here for these pulleys, they're also a blue metallic color. And then you see these spears going through the gears, just to create that other like really highly mechanical look to it, all the way down to the tail. So the tail is different per side. So on this side, you've got a couple surfboards. One is translucent. Again, a couple of those gears and a Technic bushing. And then on the other side of it, you can see it's way more organic. It's kind of brick built, a little more traditional. And you can see that clear delineation right down the middle. So it's right down that middle where they start to make things different. And that carries all the way up its spine, all the way up to the top. Everything is different. There's only a couple things that are shared, like this windscreen piece. These two pieces are also shared. They're the exact same. But even these little eye stalks here, they're different. One is chrome and the other is just a normal blue. I will say these were really hard to put in. They ask you to cut them by one notch. You cut them, but they're really hard to get in there. I actually had to trim them just to get them to stay like that. But if you were to just touch it, I think it would pretty much come out. Yeah, so that is the model itself. Just a lot of detail, lots of things to look at. On the organic side, they've hidden things like roller skates right there. There's different plant pieces, little barbs in blue. I've never seen those before. They use paint palettes on the legs here. So you see right there, there's a paint palette, another one, and the end of each one, that's kind of how they form the little, almost like a paddle at the end of each of those legs. So nice and organic on this side of it. Now, talking about the overall model, every photo I've seen of this model, they show it pretty much from this angle right here. And the reason they do that is because this is pretty much the front of the model. And there is a clear front versus a back. The reason I don't call the other side the front is because they've got this large structure here that blocks a lot of the mechanical part of it. And also they haven't tried to hide the battery box at all on the other side. So this is definitely a front. And what makes it a unique model, and what I think also makes it challenging to photograph, is that from this side, okay, you look at it and it's like, okay, a giant mantis shrimp. But it's not clear that there's more to it, that there is this mechanical side. So because of that, I wonder if the mechanical aspect was an afterthought. And either that, or the designer said, no, for sure, I want it to be half mechanical. But because they wanted more verticality or they wanted more visual interest, they added these upright pieces here. But the problem is now they've created a forward-facing side and a back side. And so now you cannot really appreciate the mechanical aspect of it because these are always blocking it. These structures here are always blocking it. So of course you could remove those, but for a model like this, you would hope that you are building to the original designer's vision. And once you've done that, it should be as beautiful as the original designer wanted it to be. And in this case, I feel like maybe the original designer's vision maybe was tinkered with by other people who said, look, we need to do this, we need to try this. And so it feels a little bit designed by committee at the end of the day. And part of the reason I feel that way is because of the issues with the scale. Things like this where they've said, oh, let's add a cute little lobster inside of a cave. Those things, I don't know if the original designer would have wanted to do those things. The original designer was making a really beautiful mantis shrimp. And for you fans of mantis shrimps out there, you're going to love this set because it is a beautiful mantis shrimp. And what is strange, though, is they didn't make it a fully organic mantis shrimp. It's almost like they said, look, for this to sell, we need to spice it up. I've got an idea. Why don't we make half of it robotic? Let's make half of it mechanical. And so it just started to feel like this poor designer ended up with a checklist of stuff, like a laundry list of stuff that he or she had to accomplish in one model. And the end result sort of reveals that, or feels as though it had a bit of a design by committee feel to it. However, that said, I do think that in person, this is way more photogenic and more impressive even in person. It does have a presence, and it definitely, if you're somebody who loves marine biology, or you know somebody who loves marine biology, if this was on their shelf, you would definitely spend a lot of time looking at it, because there's just so much detail, and it is really striking. I mean, it is a this whole build, it's just eye-catching, and it does look dangerous. The other thing I have to mention is when I was building up the entire bottom of it, this base is the exact shape of a large dinner plate, like a plate you might serve lobster on. And so it was really hard for me to get away from feeling like I was building a platter of like a lobster shrimp platter kind of thing going on. It just had that culinary feel to it that I wasn't expecting, and I was hoping not to feel or experience given the subject matter, but it was hard to avoid. It was hard to avoid. All right, so I want to also thank JMBricklayer for sending this to me to experience. It's something that I never would have experienced otherwise, and it had its moments for sure. And some moments were quite enjoyable, and others it was challenging because I wasn't sure what I was building. I wasn't sure how it was going to turn out. But yeah, there you go. That's my review, and I hope you liked the video. If you do, hit like, and if you could subscribe, that would mean a lot to me as well. Thank you so much.